like to welcome Dr. Sherbert here. She is with Curriculum Instruction. She's been with us for quite some time. I really appreciate her coming to take time out of her day to visit with us about social reconstructivism. But first I'm going to have her tell you a little bit about herself and give you some background information. So, thank you.
Well, it's nice to be here. Before coming to K-State, I taught in public schools for 28 years. I did my student teaching in first grade, then I taught second grade, third grade, sixth grade, eighth grade, seventh grade in there as well, and then I worked with high school students. So
Wonderful.
all the while I was working on my master's degree and then my PhD, and now I teach secondary English language arts, journalism, and speech theater courses to the Block 2 students and supervise their internships, and I've taught the assessment course for the Block B students, curriculum development to graduate students, learning strategies and study skills, and classroom management courses. So I've had an opportunity to work with students in a lot of different capacities.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so great that you're here to share with us some of your insights about social reconstructivism.
Thank
and
you.
its benefits in the classroom. So,
Well, I think that social reconstructivism, or social reconstructionism, was really evident in my classroom when I worked in the public schools. Some of the main tenets of social reconstructionism are that the instruction or the learning environment is very student-centered, and the teacher's role is more of a facilitator. It's focused on the philosophy that education isn't just to change the educational portion of society, but it's actually to affect change in society as a whole. And when you view the purpose of education, if you will, in that way, it changes the way your classroom looks. For example, there's not a lot of lecture in a classroom that's founded on this philosophy. The students are very engaged in collaborative projects. They work together. They also do a lot of exploration, and asking questions is very very central to this type of classroom. We want students to also develop an awareness of society and what problems are out there. We want them to think critically about not just society as a whole, but also think critically about their learning. If I'm going to learn this, how am I going to use this to impact society? How am I going to make the world a better place? When I was reflecting back over this, I thought about a project that we did in my 7th grade classroom the last year that I taught, and it was kind of a spin-off of Dinner and a Movie. I don't remember what channel that was on, but where they'd watch a movie and they'd cook something in between at commercial times, and they'd talk about the themes of the movie. Well, we wanted to do something similar with a book, because I taught English language arts, and so we called it "It's a Wrap." That was the title of their project, and because we didn't have really a stove or those kinds of things, we had a hot plate and a microwave, and so they had to create recipes for wraps using tortillas and other ingredients that they would bring that related to some book. And one of the first choices that this one group had asked if they could do was a book called Red Midnight by Ben Michelson, and it took place in 1981. Interestingly enough, the story was set the week before what was my high school graduation, so which to them it was ancient history, but you know, in my mind it was fairly recent history. And it took place in Guatemala, and it was about a young boy and his sister whose village was completely destroyed by guerrilla soldiers one night, and they made an escape. And it's a work of fiction, but it was based on a lot of factual information. And those two children eventually made it to Florida. And so this was one of the favorite read-alouds of the group. And of course, they had a great time creating the recipes and doing all of that. But we had such interesting discussion, and they did a lot of research on their own about that time period, about the injustices that happened at that time and injustices that were still going on, and then they translated that to our society today with the plight of immigrants in our country, people who come here for a better life. And of course, it was a literature-based activity, and so they did a lot of really great things. They had to write their own scripts. They had to integrate a lot of literacy skills with that. They had a lot of digital literacy skills. They created videos. They were uploaded to YouTube. But it really went off in the direction of, what can we do about this? How do we make this stop happening in our world today? And when I envisioned this project, that wasn't necessarily where I expected it to go, but it was where these students took the project. And so to me, that really exemplified what the goals of social reconstructionism are in a classroom.
I think that's just so amazing, because I've heard other teachers share that they kind of give students an opportunity to really explore something and take it where they want to go, and if you release the reins a little bit, you can be amazed at the directions they'll take it and how far they can go, and really explore these avenues that we wouldn't expect them to, and discover these social injustices, and really want to explore them and say, how can we stop this? How can we make a change? We've heard of teachers who will get their students involved in community service projects or service learning, because the kids are so adamant about, we've got to do something, and even if it's just a small change, they get them out there and they get them doing things, and I just think that's so powerful, because it takes learning out of the classroom and puts it in the community, which is another, big goal of that social reconstruction.
It's huge, and anytime students can take what's going on in the classroom and turn that into a how can we help mindset, I think that is so incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and I think that's great that you gave your students that opportunity. I'm sure that changed their lives and has an impact still today.
It was, and when we did publish these to YouTube, and they, they've given consent for all of that. But the first semester that I came here to K-State, and when I was working with my undergraduates, I emailed my former students just to let them know that I was sharing their projects with these college kids, and that we were talking about how they could implement those kinds of projects and activities in the classroom when they teach. And boy, did I get some happy emails back from those students.
Great. I'm sure they found that so rewarding to know that they were inspiring future teachers.
It really was. And on a more local level, we had I taught in a very small community, and we had assisted living and a care home, a nursing home there in our town, and the building where I taught was a K-12 building, and from the time those children were in kindergarten, they had buddies over at the nursing home where they would read to them or make pictures. And by the time they were in high school, it was a big deal before prom, they would go over to the nursing home and walk through in their prom attire. And they had built a lot of relationships with those residents. Some of them had lost people that they had become close to over the years. However, they also talked about things then in families, and how do we make sure that people stay connected and that no one's lonely, and again, this was another, not on a huge scale, but it was an important connection I felt that they were making to their local community.
Yeah, definitely.
Right there.
Yeah, one of the things we do with our on-campus version of this course is we have our students do a service learning project where they actually go out into the community and share what it is that they do 7 hours of service learning, go out and either work at the bread basket or, one of the women's shelters or, in one of the nursing homes to get to know something out of their comfort zone, something they don't normally do, and actually go out there. And we found that our undergraduates find that an extremely rewarding experience because, again, they said that they hadn't been pushed to do it as part of the coursework. They have never done it, but they learned so much from that experience of getting out there. And a lot of them are encouraged to, continue doing the service learning outside of the course, they continue on with the programs they started with. A lot of them do Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and they said it's a year-long commitment, so they end up doing it for the whole year, and they just said it's been one of their most rewarding experiences, and it's really changed their views on what they would do as future teachers to really embed that part into their curriculum and that social awareness and really that aspect of the social reconstructivism.
And I really think that's an important part of our program here at K-State, because when you're a first-year teacher, you're trying so hard to get it right, and you have new curriculum, and you have new materials, and you have a new professional community, and you're trying to get to know all of your students. And if these service learning projects have been part of your undergraduate program up until then, up until you have your own classroom, I think that makes a smoother transition into implementing those in your own classroom, and I think it makes it easier to see the connections that there are with curriculum and with again, that critical focus on the needs of our society and what can we do to make it better.
Exactly. Well, I really applaud everything you're doing in your work,
thank you.
and thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, and your insights. And you can look very much forward to having Dr. Sherbert very soon. She'll be your third instructor for the coursework with the MAP program. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.